The winds howl as they tear through the jagged mountain edges, carrying with it all memories of the past. The pain, the screams, the shrieks of the dying, the tragedy, all lost and blown away by the howling winds. Roopkund, a beautiful lake at 16,000 feet in the Himalayas. Innocent, pretty, but deviously deceptive. Skeletal remains of what must be hundreds of people strewn all over the place. More gruesome than a massacred army. Who were the dead? Where did they come from? And how did they die? Now, a scientific team, put together by the Hyderabad Center for Cellular and Molecular Biology, CCMB, seeks to gather more information on Roopkund's dead. Locals believe Roopkund's dead were killed by goddess Nanda Devi. History, however, has no record of Roopkund's victims, no memories of the lost souls, no engravings on temple stones, no names, nothing, as if the dead never existed. Now they lay, faceless, deep inside the snow, trapped, cornered between huge boulders, and mysteriously few headless, yet intact bodies surface as if to dare the world to tell of their existence and the tragedy, perhaps seeking redressal or recognition. The origin of the skeletons of Roopkund has been debated for decades. Attempts to trace the antecedents of the victims came to no specific conclusion. Different theories evolved, but none significant enough to solve the mystery. Legend has it that goddess Nanda Devi, the local deity, punished the members of the royal pilgrimage for flouting the sacred rituals. So the hundreds who went up, all the way, climbing the cliffs, rocks, slippery stones, to pay homage to her, perished when she let go of her anger. According to the legend, Nanda Devi, or Gauda as she is fondly called, was born to a sage who lived in a nearby village. As she grew into a beautiful woman, she was married off to Lord Shiva, the god of destruction. As per tradition, she had to leave this beautiful land and travel to live with her husband in the cold and barren mountains. Every year, Nanda's journey to her husband's home is recreated as a pilgrimage. The annual pilgrimage retraces the steps the goddess is believed to have taken to her husband's home, higher up in the Himalayas. Wan, a small Himalayan village, the last human habitat located at 7,000 feet en route Roopkund. It is here that annual pilgrimage in reverence to Nanda Devi halts for the last time in large congregation, with all the paraphernalia and music attached to it. Before going up, sands the mood of festivities. The procession, with the ram decked in all finery, leads the path. With nothing to hold on, the devotees walk up the difficult terrain. Many halt and proceed no further. Away from the reach of civilization, like a graveyard, perhaps the highest in the world, Roopkund stands with jagged edges, enveloped in fog and howling winds, sweeping through the dark cliffs, as if waiting to consume its next victim. The pilgrimage winds its way to Bedni Bugyal, a high-altitude alpine meadow. From here on, each man to his own. The fear of what lies ahead lurks large. There's no right or wrong way of doing anything here. No forecast or predictions have any say over the area. The weather can turn treacherous within minutes here. It can even kill. Roopkund, standing tall and equally heavy amidst the sacred mountains Trishul and Nanda Devi, plays hide and seek. One moment it is there for all to see. Within seconds it is engulfed in a mist of fog. The swirling fog gives it an eerie appearance. Everything about Roopkund is unappealing. It looks evil. Back in 1956, with limited resources and technology, a team of the Anthropological Survey of India made a brave effort to reach Roopkund. This first official visit was unsuccessful. The expedition got within a couple of kilometers of Roopkund, but heavy snowfall and worsening weather prevented them from reaching the lake. They had to return. Surprisingly, the team made a second effort within 2 months. This time, knowledge of the terrain, the past experience, and good weather made the expedition successful. They collected samples and returned back with several bones. They also brought back a part of a body from the waist to the knees. A few fragments of conch shells, fragments of wood, cloth, a fragment of a bangle, and a broken stone bead. As the mystery of Roopkund spread wider and spiritualism weaved into it, people far and near began to visit the place. Since the mid-50s, several people have explored the area and offered theories on the remains. So who were they? What were they doing there so far from habitation? And where were they going? No one has yet solved the riddles of the dead. Were Roopkund's dead a lost army felled by the blizzards and landslide? Were the pilgrims seeking to get closer to the goddesses Nanda Devi? Did a large group of people commit ritual suicide here? Could a group of traders have got hopelessly lost and perished? Were these the victims of a terrible epidemic? No one knows for sure. Aware of these theories, the team of Indian scientists leave for Roopkund after months of planning. In 4 vehicles, more than 2 tons of equipment are squeezed in. The young scientific team has loads of plans: stone cutters, snow shovels, fork icebreakers, and spades, besides DNA sample storage vessels. Provisions for 21 days for 30 to 40 people, including local porters, high-altitude tents, medicine kits, and dozens of other items. The team leaves for Gwaldam from Delhi early morning. The drive to Gwaldam was told to be extremely tricky. Landslides, flooding streams, rolling boulders, rain-soaked muddy roads, and heavy fog that could engulf the vehicles. True to the prediction, the drive was backbreaking. As that comes with the age, the young members of the expedition made no complaints and remained cheerful. Delhi was far left behind, and lunch was skipped to reach Gwaldam on time before darkness. For people who are not familiar with towering mountains, when one comes across it, they seem overwhelming, so big, and people standing below, so small, like an ant. As the sun fades and darkness envelops, the expedition reaches Gwaldam, 18 hours after leaving Delhi. The team decides to halt at Gwaldam to meet up with the porters and, most importantly, to repack the 2-ton or more luggage. This is probably to let the porters mark the items in bags. The porters would also check the provisions and, need arise, buy more from local markets. After repacking, the expedition leaves for Wan, the last village high up in the Himalayas. Since motorable road has reached Wan, the team avoids the arduous trek ahead by one more day. The drive to Wan, perhaps indications of things to come, is combination of extreme adventurism and exhilaration. The air gets thinner. There is tension in the car. The scene below is frightening as well as picturesque. With plunging valleys and blind curving roads, the vehicles crunch their way up on gravels and slushy, weak roads. As the motorable road to Wan becomes muddy and risky, few kilometers after Lojong, the drivers refuse to move further. Cudgeling and covering of the muddy tracks with stones help in moving only little further. The team gets its first feel of the trek. With porters moving in fast to avoid walking in night as daylight is fading out, the team members quicken their pace. The trek up to Wan is difficult. It's dark. With no past experience, no lights to guide, 2 serious casualties are avoided, as a small path up is narrow, and one wrong turn could plunge one into the flowing river or into the gorges below. The team decides to stay back in Wan for acclimatization. With chillness in the air and warm sunshine, the hills in the distance look lovely. An ancient temple of Latu Maharaj at Wan, whose blessing one has to seek to proceed further, becomes an important place to visit. Porters tell of stories of curses, working of strange things, of unhappy souls wafting through the forest, of the fiery temper of the local god. Some temples here have inscriptions of many ascetics' intention to offer themselves in a ritual sacrifice to Nanda Devi. This adds credence to the ritualistic suicide theory of Roopkund, and that the skeletal remains are those of holy men who offered themselves. The next day, the team leaves for Roopkund. A little girl bids everyone goodbye. Perhaps the team would meet her again on the way back. The expedition has to now cross over and climb a number of hills with dense forest and slushy undergrowth. It will take them 5 days to reach, an average of 8 to 10 hours of walking in a day. The air will get thinner. The weather will become unpredictable. Sickness, to an extent will be attended to. Serious high-altitude illness to any member would mean return to civilization. But the team has to go on. The going is difficult. Every step is a torture. 8 steps, halt. 8 steps, halt. No man can walk for long. Sweat pours down and the ground gets slippery with the wet leaves. One wrong move or loss of concentration would mean broken ankle or knees. The mules, on the other hand, get on with the climbing immune to the heavy loads on the back. Late in the afternoon, after nearly 8 hours of walking, the expedition reaches Bedni Bugyal, a high-altitude alpine meadow. The view is breathtaking. The weather holds. The team is still in upbeat mood. No accident. No untoward incident. The mules too reach safely with the luggage. The next day, the team leaves for Patarnachonia. The narrow path which snakes through the towering mountain with plunging neckline drains away all energy. This is where the legend starts. According to local beliefs, the king of Kanauj, on a pilgrimage to please Nanda Devi, broke the sacred rules. He brought along his queen, even though women were not supposed to go beyond Bedni Bugyal. To keep himself entertained, he brought along dancing girls. Nanda Devi was furious with the king for breaking the rules of the pilgrimage. So she created a blizzard and rained down hail which wiped out the entire procession. According to this legend, this is the ridge where the king Justaval made his dancing girls perform for his entertainment. The word for dancing girls, Patra and Nachna, means dance, so the place is called Patarnachonia. Now, according to some people, the goddess was so angry with this that she pushed the dancing girls into the underworld, into Patal. And there are 5 pits in the area, 1 big and 4 smaller, 2 below the ridge. That king of legend was called Justaval. His failure to resist earthly pleasures of the flesh provoked the goddesses Nanda Devi to strike an awful revenge. The story, as believed until today, is that the king and his entourage were all killed by a torrent of hailstones, big and hard as rock. The fear of goddesses Nanda Devi is so high among the locals that the porters squat around the pit and pay homage and seek her forgiveness for any disrespect from any member of the expedition. The good weather, no one can predict as to how long it would hold. From a mere light drizzle to heavy showers would mean lots of things. There are no places to hide, no place to duck in. The slippery track could jeopardize anyone. The porters stay close to the team members. Excitement mounts as Roopkund comes closer. The swirling fog creates a blanket over the mountain. This is no place to be. The black glacier terrain adds to the gloominess of the place. As Roopkund becomes visible, excitement gives way to fear. The steep slopes and the jagged edges drain the initial confidence of the team members. The mountain scarred with dozens of landslides is not much relief either. Base camp is established at Unending, at an altitude of about 14,000 feet. From here, Roopkund is only a 3-hour trek away. After 5 days of walking, the team has reached its fatigue point. Yet there is no sign of defeat. Fatigue only pushes the young scientific team into their tents and inside their warm sleeping bags. There is a job to be done. Jagged edges, snow-covered tracks, swirling winds and clouds. They are shut off from the mind. As darkness sets in, the tents are plundered by pinnacle-sharp rain, as if challenging the tents of its razor sharpness and piercing through. No one can sleep that night. Surprisingly, weather clears up the next day, but it is not of much relief to see Roopkund covered with snow, especially on the small, narrow walking path. The porters advise against any climbing until clearance of the ice on the tracks. Looking at Roopkund, it is not difficult to understand the dangers involved in either climbing or passing through. So what were the victims of Roopkund doing at the place? How did they manage to climb? Were they forced by circumstances to escape to a better place through Roopkund? Since the discovery of the skeletal remains at Roopkund, many theories surfaced. One of them was that there was a pass in these mountains long ago through which traders used to travel to and from Tibet. It was believed that the remains were actually Tibetan traders who hopelessly got lost in a storm and died. The expedition hopes to find Tibetan artifacts and clothing. Since animals would be used to carry the goods across, the team would find large skeletal remains of animals. As the day continues to remain foggy, the team abandons the idea of climbing up. The icy and fluctuating weather shuts Roopkund off from the horizon, as if the lost souls were deciding whether to allow entry to the strangers. There is only one prayer on everyone's lips. Having come this far, the thought of returning back without completion of work is more depressing than the weather. The next day our prayers seem to have been answered. Perhaps the drifting souls liked the purpose of the expeditions. The sky has become clear and blue, as if nothing happened the previous night. But the heavy rains has left behind more snow. With the sun shining so brightly and warmly, the expedition takes the first step toward Roopkund. Despite the sun and clear sky, porters warn of unpredictable weather up at Roopkund. It can turn treacherous. Blankets of fog could engulf the visitors. The weather would become worse around noon. The team is advised a window period of only 3 to 4 hours to stay atop Roopkund. By 2 p.m., the expedition should pack and return down to the base camp. We are told it is deviously deceptive. No one can take a chance and go by the innocent, warm appearance. The trek up from Uniatal to Roopkund is slow and laborious. The muscles ache. The head spins with depleting oxygen. Logical thinking goes haywire. Irritation, the fear of slipping and falling down, hangs heavily in the mind. The howling of the winds adds to it. There is only one thought in mind: survival. But the uncertainty of getting a second chance to reach Roopkund prods the team to go higher, ignoring everything else. The team finally arrives at Roopkund. There are no signs of any tragedy. From the top, Roopkund Lake looks beautiful, in fact stunning. The snow around the lake glitters with the sunlight. The lake is covered with a thin sheet of ice. Roopkund, had it been located elsewhere, it would have been a regular tourist spot. It is easy to understand why, according to legend, Lord Shiva named the lake as Roopkund. For a weary and highly fatigued traveler, Roopkund is the ideal place to rest and recuperate energy for going higher. There is clear, sparkling water. The hills around the lake will provide shelter. But the appearance is deceptive. Now, as fatigue wears off and reality sinks in, Roopkund doesn't look pretty anymore. It resembles a graveyard. Skulls placed on the stones remind one of the tragedy that occurred here centuries ago, of the misery, of sadness, of the helplessness of the weary victims who died a slow, painful death. The team gets to work. Though the local porters help and guide the team members, there is this strong undercurrent of their watchful eyes. The message is clear. This is a religious site for us, so treat it like that. Team members spread. Scientists from Center for Ancient DNA look out for bodies and bones for collection of DNA samples. Paleontologists plan their move. Scientists from Department of Cold Bacteria study the area. The anthropological team is ready to help. Every step crushes a bone or a skull, reducing it to smaller pieces. There are hundreds of bones strewn all over the place. At some places, the skeletons are stacked as if they were washed away and blocked by some boulder. Pile after pile, the bones and skeletal remains of human bodies. Flesh darkening and hardening away in the ice. What were so many people doing here? Could it really be an army, as suggested? It was believed they were on their way to conquer Tibet. Caught in bad weather, in high altitude, and with no way to turn back, they perished in the icy mountain. If it was an army, the expedition could expect to find swords, armor, and skeleton remains of horses. The team begins its investigation at the side of the mountain, which is known as Jyotigali, or the Path of Death. The snow, to some extent, is shoveled away. And from pieces of human flesh, samples are collected and sealed. As uncontaminated DNA could be best extracted from the root of tooth, efforts are made by the team to pick the right sample. The scientists need to be careful. Invisible to the eye, there are dangers lurking in these remains that could prove fatal. If these people had any diseases like tuberculosis, leprosy, pneumonia, or the plague, the germs also would have survived. So scientists take certain precautions. But with time running out and with so much work left to do, scientists focus more on collection, thinking less about themselves. Swami Pranavananda, who visited Roopkund, believed that the dead were victims of an epidemic. Men, women, and children, their bodies were brought here and pushed down the steep slopes of the hill. There is an excitement as the team unearths the body of a woman. Not too deep in the snow, the body lies face down. The team clears away the snow and stones nearby. Though the head has rolled off, the body looks quite intact, save for an injury mark above the ankle.
This is the left leg. Yeah, this is the left leg, this is the right leg.
The discovery of a woman's body changes a lot of theories. It cannot be traders, as normally it is not a practice of traders to move with women in difficult terrains. Nor could it be an army. Theories go flying. Even as the team continues with the shoveling and combing operation, another discovery of a skull belonging to a young person creates more excitement among the scientists. The porters warn of changing weather. What was bright a few hours back turns gloomy. Fog settles in. Vision conditions become poor. There is still so much to do. The weather here can kill, like it perhaps did in the past, wiping out the lives of hundreds of people here. The expedition starts combing the lake bed. It was believed that the bodies have rolled down from the mountains surrounding the Roopkund lake. The thin sheet of ice is cracked open. Even as the scientists from the Department of Cold Bacteria collect their samples, there is another cry from the scientists across Giragali. Clearing of snow around the woman's body reveals another body, just the face. Can't make out if it belongs to a man or a woman. It was as if they died together and wanted to remain close to each other even after death. Theories become weaker. The presence of a woman among Roopkund's dead was leading to an altogether new thought. Who were these women? History records vaguely tell of Muhammad Ghazni plundering the kingdoms of Kanuj nearby and proceeding to another kingdom across the hills. Besides valuables, did he also kidnap the local women who are known for their beauty and grace? If so, there are no signs of an army presence here. No weapons, no armor, no horses, nothing that is associated with soldiers. Or was it that the whole royal family, with loyal servants trying to escape from the plundering invaders and seeking the refuge of the hills? If women were around, could children be far behind? That was the thought in everyone's mind, though in the past, an earlier expedition had found a skull of a teenager. There was no reported discovery of an infant. Could it be that their skulls are too soft and delicate to remain intact for long under the ice and boulders? The team makes extra efforts to look for the skulls of children. Though the expedition discovers a number of skulls of younger persons, they make no headway in finding the body or skeletal remains of infants. The question again is, who were these women? Once in 12 years, the Nanda Devi pilgrimage travels over this ridge and ends at Roopkund. The last pilgrimage took place in the year 2000. However, no women are allowed beyond Bedni Bugyal, more than 20 kilometers away from Roopkund. So who were this large group of people? Hundreds, or is it thousands, who were going up? And where? What were women and perhaps children doing in this pilgrimage? Did ancient rules permit women to go on the pilgrimage? As the porters warn of serious danger with worsening weather and snow falling, the team returns back to the base. DNA samples have been collected, though not in large numbers, but adequate enough from a wide section of tissues from different bodies spread over the lake. Few artifacts, too, have been sealed for the labs. The team decides to return to Roopkund the next day. There is more to be done. Perhaps more bodies could be unearthed. For years, curious visitors, fascinated pilgrims, and trekkers have taken away a large number of bones and artifacts from Roopkund. What has amazed everyone in the present expedition is the discovery of an intact body. That was a bit mysterious. Even with so much snow and so many years of plundering and impact of natural, harsh weather, elements and landslides, the bodies were quite easy to recover. What was all this leading to? Were Roopkund's dead revealing themselves to tell the world of their presence, seeking some kind of acknowledgement? Throughout the night, The members discuss this, and the agenda for the next day. As night progresses, the weather turns harsh. Heavy rainfall lashes the tents. Ice cold and sharp as razor, the rain whiplashed the camp area. No one dares come out to the mess area for dinner. The next day, though the rain has fizzled out, the walk path to Roopkund again is covered with snow. The porters refuse to even consider the thought of going up. The day goes by in eager anticipation, but a decision has to be taken. The team members sum up their activities and recheck with the instructions received from the lab. The team decides to try Roopkund on the 5th day of the halt at Unending. No luck. The weather worsens. Everyone realizes that the basic